Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Reed. Hall should be here very, very shortly. Shouldn't be long until he is here. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. And the title of tonight's episode is The First Pitch. So we thought we'd bring on the big hitter himself, Mr. Michael Phillips. How are you doing on this beautiful Sunday evening, sir?
These are my worlds. I moved out here to work for the Washington Nationals. Love baseball. And then, of course, have settled into many great years with the Commanders. So I feel this is in my strike zone, so to speak.
What did you think of Jayden Daniels First Pitch? Did he throw a breaking ball? It looked to me like he threw a curve.
He put a little something on it for sure. I think
right.
I always say in that situation, just throw it. Just throw it. Just get it over the plate, get it to the catcher. It was not. Here's the goal. You just don't want to end up on Sports Center.
You don't want to be 50 Cent.
It's not going to be on Sports Center. It did not fall to that level. I thought he acquitted himself just fine. Did all he needed to do.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as some others that we have seen, Michael.
50 cents is the funniest. 50 cents.
Oh
is
my
so
goodness,
good.
That is the gold standard. But even in the NFL world, there's some guys who
there's been some bad ones.
There's been some bad ones.
Well, you gotta know, like that's a lot of heat on you, and it's not like throwing a football, right? And so you kind of put a lot of pressure on yourself, I'm sure, and hopefully he'll have another chance to redeem himself, actually get that thing over the plate.
I was listening to the big dog Shane Gillis talk about before he threw one out like for the Phillies just like 2 weeks ago, and he was like, you don't realize how awkward it is because they call you out there and you go stand on the mound and then they go through everything. So he's like, you're just standing there on the mound like, when do I go? When do I go? And he said Bryce Harper had to be like, not yet. All right, now.
They've still got it better though than a baseball player trying to throw a football. I mean, trying to throw a football has got to be the trickiest, like, I don't do this thing of them all.
Yeah, or an NBA player trying to play in the NFL. You hear that, Austin Rivers? Sorry, we're getting on current events. I'm sorry.
Oh, no reason to bring up that cat. Now, Phillips, I wanted to ask you, speaking of like multi-sports, the men's national team got trounced yesterday by Colombia 5-1. So I want to talk about kickers a little bit. Obviously, the Brandon McManus being released. In my personal opinion, I feel like the Commanders possibly learned something they did not know before. Dan Quinn in his press conference said he learned of the news of Brandon McManus on May 27th, which is probably around the same date that we all did, which kind of shows you what's going on there. But would it talk to us about the culture shift of what this kind of means, and then also about the new kicker, Ramiz Ahmed?
Yeah, I mean, just take your wins, right? Like this is a win for the organization. You've got a culture. You establish the culture. Don't make excuses to keep a kicker in a year where you're not going to win the Super Bowl, right? This is different. If this is a team that's ready to make a run at the Lombardi and like this is Justin Tucker and something happens, you're like, I mean, this guy could be the difference between us winning the NFC title game and not winning the NFC title. He's in a best case scenario, he's a difference between maybe winning a game this year and not winning a game this year in a year where they're not going to win the Super Bowl. Great time to send a message with a guy who has spent 2 weeks with everybody, so it's not like he's a clubhouse favorite or anything. Good on Dan Quinn. Take your wins. That was a win. He took it. I'm excited. I wanted the XFL kid who keeps blasting those 60-yarders.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. But I don't know. Somebody must know something for him to not be on an NFL roster. I don't know. It seems like he should be somewhere, but felt like an easy win to me. A great time to establish your culture and to get to do it with a kicker. You can't ask for anything better than that.
The XFL kid is crazy. If I'm not mistaken, I was reading about him. He hadn't kicked since high school or college.
And
something crazy like that, and then he
just
went
cranks
out
out 60-yarders.
Like, what the hell? Okay, yeah, come on down.
Yes.
But like it was like 2 64-yarders and a 62 or something, which is just insane. And there were big kicks too. It was like to win the game.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. He's gonna get a shot somewhere, I would imagine, just to come on there and try out. But what are your feelings on this Cliff Kingsbury offense with Jayden Daniels? I know that's kind of basic. It's kind of been talked about ad nauseum, but do we know what to expect from Cliff Kingsbury yet? Or do you think that there's a lot of stuff underneath the wraps that we're going to be seeing?
Yeah, I think there's probably some stylistic signatures he's had along the way that overlap with a lot of things Jayden Daniels does well, that you can probably count on seeing. So number one, I think you're going to see a lot more no huddle than they did last year. I think that's a pretty easy one. They were towards the bottom of the league last year.
Yeah.
Cliff's always near
It's
the
like
top of the
8%.
league. Yeah, just not, so little of it last year. Cliff's always been near the top of the league, and I think Jayden can handle it just fine. So I don't think you're looking at any personnel issues there. So you'll do that. I think you'll see a lot of two tight end. He likes the two tight end in a scenario here where the offensive line maybe isn't going to be the Cadillac of offensive lines to start the year. I don't think it'll hurt to get a John Bates in there. Maybe if Sinnott shows he can block, get a couple blockers in there. I think those could be potentially good things as well for them to do that. In terms of the actual functionality, I'm also curious. We know you run play action better out of the I formation. You see things better out of the shotgun. Which one are they going to let him roll out of more often? I don't think we know the answer to that. I'm curious to see which direction we go there. Kingsbury, look, you look at his record. I want to be fair to him. He's really good through 8 weeks every time he coaches a team, right? He comes out firing. He's really good. The issue has always been when the defenses adapt, when teams counterpunch, he looks lost. So I'm not going to rule out a hot start here. I don't love the schedule in the first 4 weeks, but I'm not going to rule out that he throws some nice stuff out there. A la Robert Griffin III, where he was running some stuff that nobody had seen, took him a minute to come around on it. A big long-term question, like nobody's doubting this dude can coach quarterbacks. The long-term question, can he counter-program to what NFL defensive coordinators are going to start doing to whatever he's got planned?
Yeah, really, it's going to be a lot of fun to see if they do any of the RPO because obviously Mike Shanahan and Kyle, they kept that under wraps. Not a lot of people could see it. And obviously with Jayden Daniels in the red zone in particular, with Brian Robinson, Eckler, you can just see the positives of what that could do for you. We are now joined by our other co-host, Michael Hall. Let's up, brother?
Go.
You got a question for Phillips?
Of course I do. Excuse me. My question is, so as everyone knows, the roster's been turned over like 60% plus or whatever the crazy number is.
Yeah.
But for the holdovers that have been drafted last year and the last couple of years by the old regime, who do you think is going to benefit the most from this new coaching staff, whether it be on offense, defense, or both sides of the ball?
Yeah, I think you're looking at defense first off, right? Because I think you're looking at a group that was, not just poorly coached, but mismanaged to a large degree as well, right? I'm not gonna tell you that Jamin Davis is gonna be an All-Pro. I don't think Jamin Davis is gonna be an All-Pro, but get that guy somewhere where he can make an impact and hit somebody.
Thank you.
I think with Benjamin St. Juste, we loved him that first year. The length, he was so disruptive. He took a step back last year. What you have to ask yourself is, did he take a step back, or did just the whole defense take a step back and they weren't put in good positions? I think he can get right back to where he was, and then you start building on that. Obviously, you'd love to see for some of these young kids in the secondary to come along. I'd love for a Percy Butler or Derek Forrest to flash this year, because everybody you find is another guy you don't have to draft, right? Everybody, Emmanuel Forbes looks like a stick figure. I get that, but if you can make him into a starting NFL corner, there's one less guy you have to draft next year. You can use those draft picks on other guys. So I think you've got a lot of, I'm looking at linebacker and secondary. Just put these guys in positions. Let's see if they can take that step forward with good, competent coaching.
Yeah, I saw Reed's face after you made that comment about Emmanuel Forbes. They'll need to get
Because
into
it's so
that,
funny.
I know, but just leave the boy alone.
Anytime I see him, like the picture of his legs that went the other day, I was like, Emmanuel, you need to. There's a string hanging from your shorts. You need to cut. Oh, that's your legs. Oh my God. He's a nice guy.
Phillips, Jeremy Chin, I believe this was in his presser with reporters, local reporters. He said that he turned down more money with the Steelers in order to come to Washington. What does that ultimately tell you about Jeremy Chin and the state of Washington right now?
It tells you he thinks he can get to another contract here, right? It's what everybody who's coming here sees. You look across the board, you see a lot of guys who see the amount of money they're going to have next year in free agency, and it is not a small amount of money. These guys are going to be spenders this offseason, especially if Jayden Daniels shows anything. You start that spending train right away because you take advantage of that rookie contract. So, run down the list, right? Dorrance Armstrong, here for that reason. Cleveland Farrell, here for that reason. Jeremy Chin, here for that reason, obviously. Guys who think... Oh, no question. Yeah, absolutely. Guys who think if I have a good season, if I put together a good season here, I can get another contract here, and they're going to be willing to spend. They're going to be willing to make it happen. What I love, we had 4 years of a guy who did nothing but sign guys from Carolina. That was his whole mode of operation. And then in the first year he leaves, we get 2 guys from Carolina, and they're both awesome. Wait, where were you, Ron? It's these guys.
Yeah, that is. That's like, Ron, what the hell? You come over here, you're bringing backups and backup coaching stuff like that. First of all, Michael, what is it there that you're sipping on? That's question number one.
Bud Light, yeah. That's
Okay. Yeah.
Cheers,
It's back,
boys.
dude. Yeah,
It's back. It's Sunday night. It's I'm here for it, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Bud Light. You can't go wrong with Bud Light. That's always.
I'm not here Sunday night. I'm not trying to feel anything tomorrow morning. I'm just here to have a good time.
Right. You're trying to hydrate yourself a little bit. I get that. Is there anything Joe Witt Jr. could not talk you into doing? That dude is just unreal with his motivation.
I love it. That's a defensive coach for me, right?
Yeah.
Him and Dan Quinn, you can see how they were a pretty good tandem in Dallas.
They mix well off each other too. It's like a yin and a yang. It's like Dan Quinn's so animated, Joe Witt's so just like straight to the point, talks in some cool ass little metaphors, and you're just
said
like,
they were gonna jump some people. Like, let's go, dude.
I know. Yeah. They're talking about biting kneecaps up in Detroit. We're talking about literally just jumping and mugging people up here in DC. I'm all for it. Yeah.
No in between there. Yeah, that's just straight gas all the time from these guys, and that's what you need with a young team. You need that energy. They need to feel loved. The coaches need to make them feel loved. That's what these guys are gonna do. And hey, I mean, we talk about the coaches on both sides of the ball a lot, I know, but you got a lot of pretty bold-faced names in there, guys who know what they're doing. I mean, this is a staff that Dan Quinn's put together.
Ken Norton's fantastic.
He's like the 7th guy I would mention. If I were talking about coaches, he'd be like the 7th guy I mention.
I always forget about him, and then I'm like, oh yeah, what the hell?
Yep.
All-pro linebacker, fantastic defensive coordinator, one of the most well-respected guys in the NFL. Sick. Okay, cool. You're welcome, Jamin.
No, you're not lying about that one. Seriously, though. But so this is the off season. There's not much to argue about except for the most repetitive things on Twitter nowadays. So I'm just gonna guess the next Twitter argument will be Jayden Daniels threw out the first pitch of the Nationals game, didn't get it across the plate. How does that correlate to him not being a good quarterback?
But buddy, I live in radio. We got to find something to talk about every day now. What I love is here's my favorite controversy.
Kyle's got a face for radio. That's crazy.
I'm manufacturing this. I don't know if you saw this story the other day that Caleb Williams made Topgolf stay open an hour late so that he could finish his round with the offense. He kept Topgolf. We have number 1 and number 2 draft picks, polar opposites on the Topgolf situation. One of them can't leave, one of them doesn't want to go there. I just think Bears Commanders, I'm calling it, it's the Topgolf Bowl. Let's get it sponsored. Let's find a way. We had last year, 2 years ago, I think the women's soccer team, the Spirit, came out to a practice and was kicking the ball around with Tress Way. I love a good intra-sport situation, and I think we've got one brewing here. Now, I do hope the Commanders have a little bit of this Nationals luck, because the Nats are beating expectations for a young team right now.
They won 6 of 8 against the Braves.
They're hovering around 500. If you could tell me right now 9-8 and Jayden Daniels looks good, I'm signing the dotted line. I'm not greedy. I don't need 10. I don't need the Houston Texans. You give me 500 and Jayden Daniels looks good, I can work with that with this roster.
Yeah.
My man. Now, to wrap this up, Phillips, only have a couple more questions for you, sir. But it being June, beginning of June, everyone's probably on vacation right now. We're kind of seeing that all through the social media sphere. So what's your favorite vacation spot and or favorite activity to do on vacation?
We'll be taking 2 vacations this year. One will be going to Wichita, Kansas. That's my hometown. Okay. A lot of people refer to that as the South Beach of the Midwest. That's the thing I've heard people say. So obviously, my wife pretty thrilled that I booked us a week in Wichita, Kansas.
Pack the sunscreen.
Is it true that the other day the mayor of Kansas apologized for his state being so flat?
I love we're small, but we're also boring. So we've got both things going for us. Yeah, absolutely. Now her family goes to the Outer Banks every year, so we will do a beach week at the Outer Banks. I
I
love
love a good Outer Banks trip.
Damn. So you're bringing Wichita to the table, and she's bringing the Outer Banks.
believe the phrase here is outkicked my coverage for sure. I'm a sucker for the beach. I love the beach. So you put a beach anywhere in front of me, I'm in. Now, I will say I heard joint practices in Miami. I perked up like, then I heard joint practices in Miami in August. All right. Yeah, I am gonna try to make it down to New Orleans for that game though.
That's sick. Yeah,
because that's a must visit city. If you've never been down there, that's a great spot.
And then
I've
Phillips,
never been there, but they got hurricanes, right? But not. I'm talking about the drinks. Is that what they're called, hurricanes?
They just put everything in it. That's what I know. Like that's what's in it. Yes, that's
crazy that they call it hurricanes. There, you'd think that would kind of be a sore subject. They should change the name of that.
I don't think anything phases them at this point. They live like 15 feet below sea level in a time of global warming. Hey, you're not scaring these people.
Might as well call it Katrinas. Like I don't know.
Right, Phillips. I had seen. I'm not sure if you had read this. The New York Times put out something a couple of days ago on Bobby Wagner, saying, quote unquote, he was saying to his guys, share your scars. Kind of want to get your input into that, what that kind of means and what that article was about. I know you didn't write it, of course, but just what Bobby Wagner brings to the table.
Yeah, I mean, just he will play and he will play well. He's Bobby Wagner. He's just as much here to be a coach, obviously. I think everybody sees that, and I think he sees this as a launching pad for that. He's been a great mentor to these young guys. Sam Cosmi was talking the other day about how after a play, Wagner came and was like, yo, you're tipping things. Like, here's what I saw with your hands. Like, he's doing this in an OTA practice. Like, he's not even, like, in the film room grinding on it. He just, like, sees it in real time. Like, he's a football savant, I guess, genius, whatever you want to say. He'll be a great asset to this team, but he been through a lot, and those Seahawks teams, man, that Dan Quinn was an integral part of. You go back and read those stories. The defense hated the offense, and the offense hated the defense. You just think about going to work every day. They hated each other, and then they went out and won a Super Bowl with that combination, right? He's been through some stuff, and he's been released and kind of tossed between teams and done that number. He was on a great team in LA and a bad team in LA. I think he's going to be I love that signing, right? Him and Zach Ertz, right? If they play well, that's a bonus. But what they bring to the table that has nothing to do with how they play on the field, that's why they're here this year.
Right.
Yeah.
In defense of Seattle's defense, if my quarterback was Mr. Unlimited, I would hate him too, man. Russell Wilson is
all right. All right, Steelers week 17. Everybody stayed healthy all year. Who's the quarterback?
Justin Fields.
Oh, look at that.
I say Russell Wilson.
You think it's going to be Russell? Dude, that Subway commercial still gets me, man. The awkwardness of it. But
Broncos country. That's right.
I always said that Steelers country, let's weld, is going to be his new thing. But, Phillips, my last question for you, sir. If you could say one thing confidently, you can honestly say, and you really believe it, Washington will get better in this blank area.
Oh, secondary gotta be. I made the mistake last year of saying, I think after the Jack Del Rio firing, I was like, well, they'll get better now because they can't get worse. I don't know that they could get worse. They were at rock bottom, but they hung out at rock bottom for a while for sure. Look, we talk about this all day. These aren't bad players, like Emmanuel Forbes. Like, you can say he was overdrafted. I'll allow that. But you need to spot me. Every other team would have taken him by the end of the second round if he was still on the board, right? Yeah. Like, overdrafted doesn't mean somebody was like, oh, we'd take him in the sixth round. Like, no.
It doesn't mean he can't play. Right.
Lots of pro scouts thought he could play. Benjamin St. Juste. We saw him play. We saw it.
He was fantastic the year before.
We have seen it with our own eyes. The kid can play. Jeremy Chin, obviously, is a huge upgrade. If these guys can play, we'll see how the young guys come around. I think Mike Sanrista will be a fascinating addition to watch him play. I feel like I'm not out too far on the limb here. The secondary will be better this year.
They
Absolutely.
Have to be. They will.
They need definitely that pressure
Especially,
from the edge rushers that they've added in, throwing spaghettis at the wall, so to speak, adding a lot of guys. Even Jamin Davis saying that he's going to get his hand in there as well to help out a little bit.
Former high school coach upgraded to a guy that coached
right.
I'd say they'll probably be better.
Yeah. Now, with Quinn's history with secondaries, come on.
Since we established my Kansas bona fides, I am a Jayhawk. I did go to the University of Kansas. Last year's defensive backs coach was a Jayhawk. I will just tell you, when it comes to football, that is rarely an endorsement.
I mean, I think didn't
Yeah, if this was
Thor?
NBA, I'd be like, hell yeah, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Thor Nystrom went to Kansas as well.
Yes.
if I'm not
Did
mistaken.
Thor?
So
He's
the
good
man,
guys
dude.
coming
He's
out of
so
Kansas
cool.
there. So keep an
Yeah.
eye out there. Michael, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and joking around with us as much as we are giving Jayden Daniels too much crap about his first pitch. All right. Phillips, before we get out here, it's like to plug your social media handle and your show, of course, for people to come in and tune into.
No, this is the perfect summer show right here. This is where we need to be on summer topics. Keep clowning on first pitches. That's where we need to be. I'm every day on 910 The Fan in Richmond, Virginia. Michael P and RVA is the social. Got a really fun writing project brewing. It'll pop before training camp, so I'm sure I'll come back on and share more about that when the time comes to unwrap that for the world. So I'm very excited about that.
Well, thank you for your time,
The
Michael.
best,
Enjoy
dude.
your vacations and make sure your better half is very happy out there in Kansas. All right.
And you have to drop the joke when you're in Outer Banks. You have to say, "Uh-oh, we're not in Kansas anymore."
I don't think we're in Kansas
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. You pop a
Phillips,
Bud Light and
have a
just
good
Stone
night,
Cold.
brother. Thank you, man.
Y'all have a good one.
Appreciate
Have a
it.
great one. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man. I always appreciate Michael Phillips and his time, dude.
So fucking cool.
He is.
I just love him. I love everything about him.
What's
He's so
up,
good at
boys? It's
everything.
been a minute. It's been like a week and a half. I think it's the longest that we've ever gone without recording. So how are you
And
guys
with
doing?
all three of us together right now, it's Siri, cue up "The Boys Are Back in Town." Please play that.
No, please don't. That's not even a good song.
I was waiting for like the
It's a
Siri.
great song. It's the best song.
I was waiting for the life Siri to pop up like.
Yeah. Siri calls me Dr. Assmaster. I always thought that was funny.
My
Anytime I
wife
say,
asked me
"Siri,
what I
what's my
wanted
name?"
what I wanted the Wi-Fi to be called, and like
Yeah.
Wi-Fi password, and I was like,
There's
what?
a lot of pressure when you're picking that. By the
And I
way.
said wet farts, and she was like, Kyle, no. I'm not gonna tell our guests that when they come over to the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi
Like, make sure you
password.
click on "wet farts." Yeah.
No, not as the name, but the password. You know what I'm saying? It's like nobody's gonna
Oh,
guess
well,
that as a password.
Yeah, no, nobody would guess that unless
That's
there's a
true.
real sicko who lives next door to you. He's like, "What's your password? Be wet farts."
What is it again? Wet fart.
Yeah,
It's
you are
definitely
in
not
Delaware,
wet
though.
farts. I'll tell you that right now.
You are-
She
you are
shut
in-
that down immediately.
It's wet farts one. We got you.
Yeah, wet farts, one exclamation point. You are in Biden country, dude.
That is true.
That's where you're at. Yeah, you're in Delaware. You're in home with the goat, dude.
That's true. Hey, boys, let's get into some fan questions to wrap this up, but we also will banter in the in-between time. But this one was sent in by the Colonels, our biggest fan, of course. His question is, Hall, we seem to be unconcerned with pundits saying we have a gaping hole at left tackle, yet we're content with Cornelius Lucas and our draft pick. Is this a new scheming strategy or perhaps no longer a concern because Jayden Daniels is now being compared to Tyreek Hill's speed?
Yeah, that was crazy when he said he can run 22 miles per hour. I don't. A lot of those weird fake accounts out there. I don't know on Twitter. It's weird.
I'm pretty sure that was logged by Next Gen Stats in his run against Florida as he picked up 22 miles an hour. I don't know how.
He never looks like he's moving that fast. It's
Yeah,
nuts, but he is.
Well,
I mean, obviously,
well, if it
he's
was
a-
true stat, then that's crazy to see because it doesn't really look like he's running like Tyreek Hill type of fast. Maybe it's because of the body size difference.
Yeah.
But
That's exactly right. I had a buddy of mine I played ball with, and one of the fastest dudes I've ever seen, Lance Ruppel, and he was tall, about 6'4", 6'5", but he had long strides, and he covered a lot of ground
never
really
looked
quickly.
like he was right.
And it looks, like I said it, like in his film breakdown I did, he runs like a gazelle, and it's that sort of thing where it's just long strides, and it seems like they're almost like sliding in a way, but it's just
Yeah.
very, very fast. Sorry, Hall.
They're literally on skates.
Yeah.
They're like-
well, I mean, look, guess good for Jayden then because I guess we got
Yeah.
a super fast baller on our hands. But
Mhm.
as far as the left tackle goes, I think that I don't think most people are definitely concerned about it, and it's definitely like the biggest, I would say one of the biggest question marks on the offense going into the season. But I think that smart people that have like rational thoughts about like the upcoming season, I think realize that yeah, they didn't address it in the draft, even though they did try to trade up, but then nobody else wanted to trade it with them. Obviously, it takes two to tango. And I think that if you just looked at how the draft went, there was no left tackles that went within that second round where they were picking at, even though they had the chance to pick one, but you didn't want to overdraft a guy and blah, blah, blah. But end of the day, I think that most rational people think that you can't fix everything in one offseason. They had so many holes to kind of plug, and that You're just giving them the benefit of the doubt right now that maybe Brandon Coleman, you over there like fighting a fly or something.
Yeah, dude, because we've been moving today, so like
What
the
is this,
door's been open.
Breaking
This damn
Bad?
fly's
Yeah.
locked in his room with me, and he was like sitting on my headphone
It's
cord, just going
literally
like,
the plot to a Breaking
yeah,
Bad
he's like,
episode. He
hey,
was just
it's
doing
like,
the.
can't keep messing with me, bro. I'm just chilling.
Did you see that?
But
Did you see that TikTok that was like guys raised by their mom, and it was like all like sensitive. It was like guys raised by their dad, and it was like all hard ass, and then it was like guys raised by flies, and it's just some dude in the middle. It's so funny.
but I think saying what I was kind of saying, I think that people do realize that Cornelius Lucas obviously is a good patch starter here and there, or give you a couple good games here and there. But I think they're just also kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt that Brandon Coleman might turn into that left tackle of the future. And then obviously this draft just goes up to a whole other level of just good to like great type of thing. So I just think it's a combination of you can't fill every hole, every single hole you had in one off season, and you're just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt that hey, whatever they see talent wise in Coleman, they will be able to extract it out of him, and maybe he becomes that left tackle that we need.
Yeah, like I'm not sure if like I don't mean to poo-poo it, right? Like there's a reason why a lot of these smart people in this industry are saying that the expectations for the Commanders are not as high as like we would love it to be, right? And because like that's one of those positions where it's like you're not top 10, top 15 in regard as thought to as being really good. But as somebody who played on the offensive line, I understand that you're not always going to have the best offensive line by having pop superstars, but what you can have a very good fundamental O line altogether by playing cohesive together football and everyone being in lockstep on what they need to do. Of course, you can get in mismatches with like guys like Minka Persons and Miles Garrett and others that where you could get picked on a little bit time or here and there, but it's not like it's something that's going to be a detriment all season long, so to speak. But to your credit, Colonel, I do think that Cliff Kingsbury does play a part in it, and that's where I think the RPO plays into it a lot because that's where you can have guys start to think. When you have defenders thinking more than just go, that's when you're kind of playing really well for your offense because they're not just pinning their ears back and getting out to the quarterback. They're thinking, is he handing it off or do I rush? And when you have to force that, that's when you're kind of making them slow down a little bit. That's when you can kind of dictate and have more control, give your guy more time to make those decisions. So I think that ultimately scheme is going to help out a lot. And I think that Cliff Kingsbury is not somebody that's looking at this offensive line saying, oh, yeah, we're good. I think that he is probably worried about it, but he is going to do his best in order to get the ball out of Jayden's hands quickly. And I'm sure Jayden is, with that new VR software, going to be working to be able to do everything shallow, but not to the point where it's going to be turnover costly in a sense. So I think that altogether as a unit, offensively, I think it is a misfit toys sort of situation. And this is where Zach Ertz plays into it, right? Being that safety blanket, and Brian Robinson being one of the best pass blockers. And then you have, and we can't forget about, thank you, our man Bates, who's like basically an offensive lineman out there, especially in blocking. So you do have outlets to help you, like secondary outlets, but you can't depend on that. Because, yeah, Bates is a great blocker, but when he's on the field,
He's still a tight end. Right?
most likely that he's going to be blocking because he's not the best receiving tight end, right? So like that's where it kind of hamstrings you a little bit. It kind of holds you back, but ultimately I think scheme and that's where Cliff Kingsbury's mind really plays into it. I know Phillips talked about 8 games in this when Cliff does really well, but I would put in the caveat there. There is a reason why in Kyler's contract they put that about studying. And I don't want to put that all on Cliff Kingsbury because I do think that when you're playing with somebody who is his height, his kind of skill set, it's easy to start figuring things out if you have a good defense and a good structure around it to be able to say, we know what his strengths are. We just got to be able to constrict it enough. And that's where it goes into the study habits of being able to break out of those weaknesses. And I don't think Kyler was invested. I don't want to put that all on Cliff, but obviously he had his hand in it. But I think this time around, he's spent enough time away that, and he has a pretty good defensive coordinator to go up against. So I think that he's going to be prepared for it.
Yeah. Also, it's like you talked about with Cliff Kingsbury. It's kind of live and learn. Like this is we know what he can do with quarterbacks. We've seen flashes of his offense. We've seen how smart he can be. And he got fired in Arizona. And now was that all on him? Probably. I mean, he's got to take responsibility for it. It was tough, obviously, being a head coach,
Fair.
but being an offensive coordinator here, You can focus on one thing. You can focus on your offense. And apparently, I mean, word on the street was, remember, he was originally hired by the Raiders and all this stuff. Apparently, he destroyed these meetings with coaches. Like when it came to like, all right, a defense does this at you. What do you do? They do that. What, like on whiteboards? Apparently, he annihilated and like came up with some crazy concepts that these coaches were super impressed by. That's why he was linked to so many teams.
He started
So
drawing
I'm,
Donald Trump on the whiteboard like you
yeah,
did
yeah,
at
yeah.
your
He
work.
started, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he started saying, "What a felon! Wow, vote for me, lock me up. I'm gonna lock them up. I am. I promise." But and but there's ways you can scheme around the offensive line. I mean, you can do the quick passing game. There's every team that makes it far that's good in the NFL doesn't always have the best offensive line. The Bengals, the Chiefs, these guys, they don't all. I mean, the Chiefs have been good as of late, but like you can get around that. And if you were to ask me 3 months ago before the draft, you'd say, what holes are we still going to have after the draft? I would not have put offensive tackle on there. I thought for sure we're going to be able to address it, but that's just not the way the draft fell. So it is what it is. And like Hall said, if you hit on Brandon Coleman, if he ends up being a left tackle, even if it's just an average starting quality left tackle, this is a hell of a like that changes this draft completely. That all of a sudden, so there's guys there that you can be excited about, and unfortunately, you can't fill every hole in the off season in one off season. So they're just gonna have to make do with what they have. Who knows? You see guys all the time come out there and impress and play bigger than their spot. So I'm excited. I say that until Jayden Daniels gets crushed from the blind side, and I'm just like, get them out of there. We should have been drafted.
We do have to remember, like, Morgan Moses was a local punching bag when he was playing here, and then he goes to Baltimore and is a staple starter for them. I think he went to New York to the Jets, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
That's where he's playing now. And so we do have to put that caveat in there. As much as we like to say that our offensive line isn't as great as, we really truly don't know what we do have, but we have to trust the powers that be that they do know and that they have everything structured. But look, you're going to have weaknesses. And obviously, this is probably one of the more important weaknesses, given that it's the blindside protector of our new high investment that we want to be playing here. We don't want to RG3 this kid, right?
You also have well, it's past June 1st, whatever, June 2nd cuts or whatever right now. But you also go ahead and have training camp cuts where guys are going to start emerging as, oh, we can put him as a starter. We don't really need this guy anymore. So maybe some guy kind of like that Charles Leno type thing shakes loose and they say, hey, we can target that guy, bring him here for the next year.
Good point.
Yeah. Next year or two. And
I'd take a flyer.
maybe, like I said, the Charles Leno plan where you get a year or two out of him while Brandon Coleman or whoever the next left tackle is kind of developing, or they draft him again next year. But there's different ways to work around it. But again, it's definitely a hole, and it's definitely one of the most concerning things going into the offenses off season. But like you said, you just gotta. At least me personally, I'm at the point of I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt until they give me a reason not to. So we'll see how it goes.
And we say that until something, but I'm not even gonna say.
It's like Demi Lovato's arm. It's just a giant hole. There's just a giant hole there.
Not sure
she overdosed on heroin one time.
Oh, dude, don't. That's a bad joke. That's not funny.
I get it now.
It's funny because she's okay. It's funny.
And God bless her.
It's funny.
Now let's get into our questions from Discord. And this one was sent in by Deluxe. He said this is from Mrs. Deluxe. So she says the team has had many quarterbacks over the years, and none have worked out, including high draft picks. What's the plan to make sure he doesn't fizzle out like the others, Reed?
I'm sorry.
No. Well, we have a great stud left tackle to protect his. Wait, never mind.
Yeah. What was my internet froze for a second? I didn't hear the entire question.
Oh, basically none of the high draft picks or recent quarterbacks have panned out for Washington, going back years upon years. So what's the plan to make sure he doesn't fizzle out like the other quarterbacks?
I mean, hopefully just having a player-friendly offense. Like you look at some of these guys who are just thrown to the wolves too fast. And granted, every player is different. Like Patrick Ramsey and Jason Campbell are different players that like they weren't guaranteed success anywhere that they went. Jayden didn't know quarterback is, but RG3 had so much ability and he was very similar to Jayden Daniels. I think Jayden Daniels is probably the better prospect, but like the way that they had to run him, obviously we know how that played out, and it was like the offense that they had to run. It was very unfortunate what happened to him. Otherwise, I think possibly he could have developed, or he would have developed. So really, you just got to keep this guy healthy. You got to let him get as many reps as possible. You want him to take those mental reps, and like if he's struggling, you can't take a rookie quarterback out of it. You just got to let him build on it and get through it, and that's kind of where the growing pains thing will come in. So you have to expect lumps, you have to take lumps, but you have to show him that you have confidence in him, because the moment a quarterback thinks that you lost confidence in him, a la RG3, Patrick Ramsey, or their confidence is hurt at all, then all of a sudden that's when it starts getting bad and spiraling. So I think that you really gotta show confidence in your quarterback, and that's really the only way to develop him besides keeping him healthy.
I do think the VR software is monumental in this case. Like when RG3 was coming out of college, he wasn't calling plays on the field, right? They had their own kind of offensive scheme that they had with the stupid boards that they would put up, right? That what the play call
Would
was.
they do that Oregon style Chip Kelly offense where they would hold up the boards?
Yeah, and it was something along those lines. So it wasn't like he wasn't even calling plays when he came in the NFL, let alone getting enough snaps to diagnose a defense. And I think that we already know the facts of the matter in regards to that player. So I think that the comparisons for Jayden to RG3 are miles apart from the moon and the earth, sort of, so to speak. So I think Jayden comes in with that mindset that's really geared to help him be able to get the ball out of his hands and knowing what is coming at him. But I also think that this is where the veteran coaching staff and the veteran players on the team truly do help Jayden Daniels a heck of a whole lot, and being able to help him have those outlets, letting him know what he is going to be seeing, what they're going to be doing to him, and ultimately so he knows what to expect. But I would say that working on the release is going to be huge for Jayden Daniels, getting the ball out of his hands quickly. You don't want the deer in headlights that we saw so many times before with many quarterbacks here, but also the sliding. Lamar Jackson, I've said this many times, if Jayden Daniels is going to study anybody's running ability, you study Lamar's in the fact of how he gets down before he gets hit, how he goes out of bounds before he gets contact. That has kept him healthy. The times that he's gotten injured, meaning Lamar Jackson, is when he's actually in the pocket. And so that's what you want to really gear Jayden Daniels towards, because we've all seen those, I'm not even, the low lights of him at LSU just getting tossed around like a rag doll, getting hit by some really good defensive players. He's going to be seeing that same thing in the NFL. So help yourself out a little bit. I think Tyreek Hill is another player that is masterful at getting down before getting hit and taking contact. And that's what you want Jayden to kind of help him in order to retain his health, like Reed was talking about. Those sort of things, the release is crucial. If you're getting pressure on you, I don't want you going back to throw the ball and getting your arm, your shoulder getting knocked out, right, and not being able to throw the ball anymore because you had somebody coming behind you. If you can get the ball to your hands quickly, knowing where to go, that can help you out a heck of a whole lot. So I think the release, the sliding aspect, and then also just the veteran adult leadership around him, and not the putting him on a pedestal, like, no, we'll put pussy on a pedestal. It's like the third time I've heard that today. Like that sort of thing where you're making him work for it to show that this is the kid. You got to be an adult, and it's hard to ask that of a young man coming in as a rookie. But if you're going to start for us, you have to be an adult, and you have to be realistic of what's being put out in front of you. It's not going to be easy. Nothing's going to be given to you, and you have to be prepared for it. And I truly do believe that Jayden Daniels already possesses that ability and mindset. So it's not like that's a concern for me. I do think this is a different animal here. And so I ultimately, let's just go to work. And I think that we have the right structure in place to do that. And that's why the veteran coaching staff is so productive and valuable in this situation.
Yeah, I think what will make it different, or what will make it different this time, is honestly, to answer the question honestly, is we don't know what will make it different this time, because
Damn you.
every NFL quarterback is the hardest position in sports to play.
True.
You got to be cerebral. You got to be mentally tough, physically tough, and it's just one of those things where every day you got to get better and better and better, or else.
Pretty hard to control yourself being a kicker on a flight home from London too. That's one of the toughest positions in sports.
That's a very tough position as well. It's definitely number 2 on my list.
Yeah.
But I think that could make it different this time, and actually because insanity has been the last 25 plus years. But I do think that the one difference in this whole thing will be, for the first time in a very, 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 very long time, everyone within the organization is putting all their chips in behind this one quarterback, and they're all pulling in the right direction with this quarterback. I know you've been saying it forever, but I'm just saying, like,
No, that's
it's just
good shit, dude.
yeah, it's just
Good
one of them
shit,
things
man.
where, like, this is the one thing that's kind of different now, where if you look in the past, obviously we had the quarterback where it was you go to Dan Snyder's office, you can kind of supersede the coach or supersede the GM, and then you had the GM who really wasn't a GM, and it was just always chaos. And I think that finally it's just football. You don't got to worry about what's going on the outside. It's just all about what's on. Not to be weird, pause. What's on the inside, And I think that I just think that you have everyone
Not
pulling in the right
politically.
direction. And at the end of the day, look, if the Browns can kind of get out of disparity, if the Lions can get out of disparity,
Are they
why
out?
can't we? We got to do it eventually. So I think we're on the right track at this point.
I would say I
Yeah.
don't think the
Also,
Browns are out of that.
yeah, one thing
I
that
mean, they
does
made the
help too.
playoffs with Joe Flacco. I think they're on their way there. They
Uh,
got a pretty
One
good roster. They just need a quarterback, kind of like us.
Yeah,
Well,
one thing
yeah.
that helps too with Jayden is I think Jayden would be successful, could be a successful pocket passer even if he wasn't, I mean, as athletic as he is, as mobile as he is, because like you watch all these scouting reports and you listen to what all these analysts are saying. They were saying that they think that he's the best, he was the best processor of any quarterback in this draft.
yep.
Like just like him
That's where that
pre-snap,
VR
him
comes into play,
understand
right?
exactly. So yeah, yeah. So that VR, like I said, Kyle, like I've been punching out for months. That VR is so crucial.
I like you've been saying for a month. You're absolutely right. And now the
Yeah.
next question that we have is from Big Tony Shivers, guys. Who has more total touchdowns, B. Rob or Eckler? Reed.
Total touchdowns. I'm going to go B. I think, look, obviously, I think Eckler is going to play a big role, but I just think Brian Robinson, if you look at their careers, right now, Eckler's kind of on the downswing. Brian Robinson is not getting the respect he deserves. I just think in terms of rushing touchdowns, I think Brian Robinson should have a good amount of those. And we've seen Brian Robinson can catch the ball. Brian Robinson can make plays. I mean, remember against the Falcons his rookie year.
Choo
I think
choo.
Brian Robinson is going to have more total touchdowns, and I think he's going to have double digits total. I think Brian Robinson is going to be fantastic this year.
And the one thing that Eckler has proven to be very good at over his career and even last year was getting touchdowns, right? And so in
Mm-hmm.
himself, it's a really good duo to have. And this is hard to say because barring injury, we totally don't know what's going to happen throughout the season. But I would say that Brian Robinson is probably the best bet. Just being he's the hammer, he's the thunder, so to speak, where Eckler is the lightning. And it's hard to say that Eckler now at his age or where he is, he's not the same
So that's some
spry.
slow ass lightning.
Yeah, he's not the same he's
I'd
not
get
the
out of
same
that way.
spry guy he was before. But the fact of the matter is, when you do get down to that red zone area, Brian Robinson is a weapon in that regard because he's it's not like he is slow, but he is one powerful son of a gun. And like I've said, he's like a train when he gets full speed, right? And I think Brian Robinson probably is your best bet, just like that Marion Barber kind of running style where he's just going to run right over you. And if you're in the 5 yard line or inside, he's going to get that touchdown if you give him the ball. And this offense needs to score points. And best way to do that in the red zone is by running the ball efficiently and well, something that we have not been able to do here for a really long time. And going back to probably 2012 was our best rushing attack that we did have. And that's when we scored the most
That was
points.
fantastic rushing attack.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, that was best in the NFL at
Yeah,
that
and
point.
that RPO is what truly is the difference there. And so that's why I feel like Brian Robinson could benefit the most by just in total touchdowns.
Yeah, I would probably agree, but I think it is going to be Eckler. I think it'll be close. I think one will have double digits and one will just have shy of double digits. And I'll just go with Eckler just because you guys both said Robinson, but
Good job.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was Robinson for all the reasons you guys said. But I'll just say Eckler because if you just look at his past resume, he has a nose for the end zone.
Yeah.
One of the most he scored the most touchdowns over the however many years it was in the NFL. And if you just think back to what he said about when he got signed here and what he was looking for in the offense, he said they're going to start using him in the slot. And he's still, even though he has lost a step or half a step, whatever you want to call it, he's still a twitchy mismatch for a linebacker or some of the safeties that are going to be going up against him inside the red zone. We talked about Cliff Kingsbury's creativity and how he really does scheme guys open. He's really good at scheming guys open and scheming certain players open for certain plays. So if they really want to get Eckler in the end zone or Robinson in the end zone, I can see them doing some like creative type stuff or putting Eckler in a slot or maybe an RPO where Eckler has like a little option route where he's swinging out to the outside or like maybe like a little like quick out, whatever it may be. But end of the day, I think that I think it'll just be Eckler just because he's coming off that chip on his shoulder where everyone thought he was like finished and done, coming off last year, the injuries and whatnot. And I just think that the nose for the end zone is passed and Cliff Kingsbury's red zone creativity. And if you look at a guy like Kenyon Drake, who had one of his best careers touchdown wise, was with Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona, which if you kind of think about his offense, Eckler kind of fits in that role of Kenyon Drake with that third down, catch out the backfield type of guy, but can also take the handoff off the gut and whatnot. So, yeah, Wouldn't be surprised if it was Robinson, but I'll say Eckler edges him out by a touchdown or two.
Great job, man. Way to counter us because that's exactly what we needed. So we didn't all agree.
Yeah,
But
we should have
I'm
all
the
agreed.
I'm the Shannon Sharp to your Skip Bayless. Skill.
Skill, skill,
yeah.
skill.
Now the
Club
next
Shay
question.
Shay, your unk.
The
I'm
next
on.
question that we have,
Yeah.
Hall, this is from Tim Towner. With the new stadium likely 4 years away, I'm guessing a new training facility will be the next shoe to drop with regards to physically rebuilding the franchise. Would you like to see this located next to the stadium or out in the burbs, and where? Any idea as to what those facilities would look like?
I think it all depends on where they're actually going to put the stadium at. Like, if they put it in DC, would they have enough space to kind of put a facility there as well as a stadium? If they're going to build, I guess you can't call it FedEx 2.0 anymore because it's not FedEx. But if they're going to stay in Landover, are they going to build a stadium, but then like build not like a huge stadium, but then build a facility there as well? They're going to redo Ashburn facility out there. I think that yeah, I don't know. I guess if you're just looking at the tea leaves right now, I would say that the facility will still stay in Ashburn or somewhere out in Virginia, just because most of the players, that's where most of them stay at right now. It'll be easier to get to the facility from wherever they're living at out there. And I would say the stadium, if you listen to the people that cover it, the smarter people than me, I would say that it's going to be Landover right now, but just because of the hassle that it is to get to DC. So I'll say stadium, either National Harbor or Landover, and training facility out in Virginia, wherever that may be.
I'm with you, but I have different idea here. I do think that the stadium will be in DC or the National Harbor, but the one issue here is the how much space, how much land do you have, and in the DMV in that sort of area, there is not a lot of space, but there is in Virginia, right? I could definitely see them rebuilding the stadium, National Harbor or DC, but having the training facility in Landover. And that way it is a way because there's not much to do in Landover. You don't want guys hanging out around and where their training facility at. Right? Like how many times did we see the issues with players here before where they were going out to the clubs and everything like that? Well, if you have to travel far, it's like harder for you
Fred
to do
Davis.
that. Right.
Anytime I saw Fred Davis, because we used to see him out randomly, he would always be all fucked up.
Dude, I saw him at the club in VIP one time. I'll never forget that he ordered a bottle of
Didn't
Grey Goose in VIP and he didn't even
yeah,
drink it. He just met two girls and then they left. And I was like, oh,
hell yeah.
hell yeah, Fred Davis. Peace out,
I
bro.
always say, why are your eyes always so red? And why are your like this?
But I would
Are
say
you a pot Asian man?
I would say that the stadium in DC, training facility in Landover, and the team headquarters, the sales, all that jazz, probably in Ashburn. That way, you're really kind of bringing together the DMV, so to speak, and that kind of brings it all together where everything isn't together like in the same spot, so to speak, because the space is the issue. God damn, go away, man.
Hell yeah. Sounds good to me, brother.
All right, that's awesome. Now, the next question we have is from Scott Hartley. Reed, since you didn't want
Oi.
to answer that one. Oi! Of the
Oi.
recently signed free agents who has the best opportunity to be a day one starter, I'm looking at Michael Davis at cornerback, he says.
Ooh. So out of all the signed free agents,
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a bunch of them because this roster is completely flipped upside down. But I do like the Michael Davis signing. I think that Jeremy Chin, just with his freak athleticism, he's going to have a very specific role that only he can play. That is going to be some hybrid safety linebacker, and you're going to find ways to use him because he's so athletic and his ability is so rare. You can use him in so many different ways. So I like Michael Davis. I do think that Jeremy Chin is going to have a huge role, like not just like okay, he came in here, won a starting job. Like you have a very specific role. Only you can do this. You're going to be a huge part of this defense.
Yeah, I think this is very easy. I think it's Tyler Badass. I've been referring to him as Badass for a while now
Watch
because
your mouth.
he's a starting center without a doubt. I would even say Allegrati, we got a Gotti over here. He's going to be starting, of course, but I would be willing to bet it's Dorrance Armstrong. That's somebody coming over from the Cowboys. Were you going to take him?
Yeah.
My bad. All right, go. I already answered.
No,
Too.
go ahead.
About
No, go
70
ahead.
other players
Pick someone
he
else.
picked.
Coming from the old scheme, he knows how they like to play. shoe-in starter, you could say, as a rusher to be able to help them out, because it's not like you have to truly. He even said in his press conference to reporters that it is sort of like the same defense that he was learning, and as an edge rusher, it's not like a lot is going to change for you regardless of the system. Essentially, it's defend the run, get out to the quarterback. But in this sort of instance, with the regime change, with the defensive coordinator and the head coach coming from his old spot, I think those three guys are an easy shoe-in.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with an easy one. I'll say Frankie Louvu, and I think he'll have like the biggest impact, if not the biggest impact for the defense as the incoming free agents. And I think they're going to use him all over. They're going to use him as a blitzer. They're going to use him as a run blitzer, a third down pass blitzer. They might line him up on the edge next to Jamin Davis or opposite Jamin Davis. They're going to use him in pass coverage probably. So I think Louvu is going to be a guy that you're going to see flying all over the field. He's going to become a household name here in Washington, and I think he'll have the biggest impact free agent wise.
Yeah,
really, you can just look at the guys that have signed multi-year contracts that think that like what this coaching staff sees of them. Like they're not just here on a tryout basis; they're here to be guys that they can play and build around for the next few years.
Absolutely. Now the next
Shin
question.
signed a 1 year, but come on, man.
Scott Hartley asked Kyle, "What's been the worst part of moving?" The easy political answer would be just obviously moving away from my brothers, loved ones, friends, of course. Every like Hall, so to speak. Reed, not so much. But honestly, it was just the anxiety about it all moving out here, because it's not like really moving, but coming out to a new place and everything like that. But I was praying a lot about it and everything, and as lame as it is, I had a lot of questions about coming out to Delaware. But like I was talking to my buddy at work, and because they smoke cigarettes, so I was outside with him, and like ladybug landed on my sleeve, and it was chilling with me for like 5 minutes, dude. It was hanging out, so I was like, okay, this is cool. But come to find out, the Delaware state bug is a ladybug. I found that out at our going away party, so it was maybe like one of those signs that you say like, calm down, everything's gonna be all right, And so honestly, it was probably just the anxiety of it all. But ultimately, it's not.
Sounds like an end of a movie, dog. That's just crazy.
But it kind of is. Roll credits. Kyle's done.
Now the next question. This is from Deluxe. Reed,
come on, we're in Joe Biden country. Come on.
Jamin Davis answered a question about year 4 and said it's another chip on your shoulder. You go out there and make some noise. Hopefully you do what you can to stay here. It's a subtle quote, but isn't it nice to hear a player talk about hopefully staying here and instead of circumstances? I don't think he's alone in wanting to stay here. Things are different.
Yeah, I mean, usually a lot of guys are like, I can't look beyond my contract. We kind of just got to figure it out. It's like a political answer, and that basically like they don't care whether they're here or not. They want to get money wherever, regardless. But that is good to hear that Jamie wants to stay here, especially. I mean, why wouldn't he right now? Like with this defensive coaching staff and bringing in Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, and plus just the fact that Jamin Davis has gotten better each year, and now he's with a defensive coordinator, linebackers coach, all these guys that seem like they really know how to use him. He's got to be excited, dude, because the guy is a freak of nature when it comes to athleticism and his abilities on the football field. So I would think he would want to be here, man. I mean, it's a new beginning. They're going to get a new stadium soon. They're a new franchise. It's like, come on, brother, just stay here. Just stop driving.
Dude, which is so funny because he showed up in those Lightning McQueen Crocs that he
was
did wearing. Yeah, dude,
Hell
Lightning
yeah,
McQueen.
Dude, that makes me like him more.
But it's just funny that he is like addressing the elephant in the room with this Croc situation, which is pretty freaking hysterical.
Which is, I'm going to go fast no matter what, dude.
Right. But to your point, Deluxe, about just like wanting to stay here, it wasn't too long ago that Jonathan Allen, team captain, was saying, of course I've thought about leaving here and the circumstances, like I'm tired of losing. He was pissed off. But I think you don't have to be an intelligent person, a genius, so to speak, to understand that things are changing here and for the good. And like, honestly, you can't get much lower than where we were before. And so, of course, Jamin Davis would want to stay here. I'm sure Jamin is kind of concerned about his NFL future because he was a first-round pick, and Lord knows where he's going to be on another team. Is he going to be starting? Most likely not, just given how he's played at the linebacker position. But his future is bright if he does what he's asked and is actually concerned about his well-being and future. So it is good to hear that, and it's a fresh breath of air, man, to hear guys want to be here and that culture being built. I talked about it, like what would be one of the biggest what is the worst thing that could happen this season is if the guys started fighting. They're not bought in together, because Zach Ertz and Bobby Wagner said the same thing. The best teams that they were on, they had a culture in that locker room, not from the coaching staff, a culture in the locker room that they upheld, and they were leaders to each other. And that's the sort of thing you want to build here. And I think that's what Jamin Davis is starting to kind of recognize in this sort of instance, and it's beautiful to see.
And the fact Jeremy Chin chose to sign here
Right.
over some other places, like it's telling, man.
Jamin lives his life a quarter mile at a
Yeah,
time.
he does. I hope he doesn't end up like Paul Walker, though. That would not be cool.
Come on, man.
Nah, but
I mean, that wouldn't be cool. I don't wish that on anybody.
No, it's not cool.
Yeah.
Why you got to bring up Paul, man?
Except for maybe Dak Prescott.
Monica.
What is that quote he has in Too Fast and Furious? Like, what I'll tell you, could. What do you say?
Don't worry about it, cuz.
Don't worry about it.
Paul Walker
could.
said that?
Yeah, he said it in Too
Do you
Fast and
remember that?
Furious.
Funny joke.
Yeah,
every
like
time we
him
watched
and
it, we would
Tyrese
say,
are walking out like
Yeah.
the police station or
Don't worry
something like
about it,
that. Tyrese asks something, he's like, "Don't worry about it, cuz."
He'd say, "Hey, Paul Walker, click it
But he-
or ticket."
But he says it like so white though, which is so funny. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Walker said
Iconic
something white. I don't
scene,
believe
iconic.
that for a second. He's not the ultimate white person ever in the history of people.
there he
He's
is.
such a surfer, bro. He's so white. Yeah.
Holly, you want to answer that?
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, Jamin Davis. Yeah, I mean, Michael Phillips talked about it, where if Jayden Daniels is what we think he can be and develops into this year, and he shows that he can be kind of take that step and open up that window of hopefully championships, and they got a lot of money to spend next year. Jamin Davis, if he has a good year, shows that he can really pick up this system and really thrive in this system. Maybe he's one of them guys that gets one of these bags that Adam Peters is going to be handing out next year if Jayden Daniels is the truth or shows that he's the truth. So, yeah, definitely I feel for him I definitely feel him where he says it's a chip on his shoulder because this is his, like you said, not really his last chance to like show that he can be a starter because he obviously has multiple years to prove that in the NFL. There's guys that are way worse than him still getting contracts. But I would say that this is his chance to show that, hey, I was worthy of being a first round pick, and there was a reason why I was drafted. And it might have took a while, but these coaches, I finally found the coaches that can get the best out of me, and I showed and proved, and now I'm getting the contract or whatever it may be, and hopefully it will be here, like you said. So yeah, quarter mile at a time.
We talk about Paul Walker. Did you know Paul Walker had really, really bad dandruff? Yeah, they found
Forget
his
about
head
it, cool.
They found his head and shoulders in the glove box, folks. That's
Come on, man. Now the next question we have, Hall. This is from Jeff Miles. He sent this in a couple days ago. I haven't heard much about the relationship building with Terry and JD. What is your opinion about that? As I'm hearing good things from Vikings and Falcons wide receivers about their rookie quarterbacks.
I would say that who knows? I guess we won't really know anything about that. They got what's it called? Minicamp coming up this week or whatever. So mandatory minicamp coming up this week. So maybe we see something about that coming up. But I just feel like it's just OTAs right now. Everything they're doing is 7-on-7s, and reporters only been out there a couple times. And I think we won't really hear about the connection and how they're doing, like as far as like working together and how they're looking until like training camp starts in late July, end of July. So I wouldn't be worried about it as of right now. And also, Jayden seems like a guy that, even though it's going to be like the off season, like their downtime coming soon for the next like month and a half, I feel like Jayden is one of those guys where he's a leader, where he's going to get the guys together to go throw somewhere, and obviously Terry would be a part of that. So I think that they'll be working on it leading into training camp. So I don't really have any worries about it right now. I just think that it hasn't been reported a lot because Jayden Daniels hasn't really been talked a lot. All the hype's been around Caleb Williams and whatnot. So, we'll just do what we do as far as like no hype, no nothing, and we'll just creep up on people like we always usually do in years where we're good.
Yeah, I do think it is funny that from OTAs, where it's not like really 11-on-11s, everyone's going 100 miles an hour. They're like a good relationship between JJ McCarthy and his wide receivers. Like, come on, man, don't feed me that crap. And then with Kirk Cousins, I think the Atlanta Falcons have to validate as to why they paid him a bunch of money and picked a quarterback in the first round as well. And so they probably have a reason politically to push that out there. And why would the Commanders
there's agendas behind these?
Right,
Nah,
like,
I don't think so, man.
the
Everyone's
Commanders
telling the truth, I think, man.
want to be telling what they're going to be doing. Do we know if Terry's going to – I don't think Terry's going to have to work in Week 17 to get his 1,000-yard season, but I ultimately don't want Terry to be the only one catching footballs all year, right? I think –
Hey, there was There was no talk about Terry all throughout the preseason, training camp, nothing like that. Whenever
Right.
he was drafted, and all of a sudden, week one, bang.
Remember, I
So
said that too. I was like, dude, there's something up here because I think this kid is going to be legit with Dwayne Haskins as college quarterback. But Reed, do you have anything to add? Okay. Next question we have is from Tim Towner. If you had a family or a good friend visit the DC area, Reed, what is one attraction you would be sure to share with them?
Depends on the time of year. I mean, if it's springtime, I mean, even though it's going to be super, super crowded, the cherry blossoms always cool to see. If not, go to the museums, dude. Go to the Air and Space Museum. The Air and Space Museum rules. And hey, if you're into it, go to a concert, go to Echo Stage, see a show if you're into that type of thing. Because Echo Stage has been rated the best venue in the world, honestly, for EDM shows specifically. So I mean, that's something that a lot of people don't know about that you got to check out. U Street Music Hall is another good one. Yeah, man, there's a lot to do in DC. Just take your pick. Just whatever you do. Don't go to Ben's Chili Bowl. It is a little bit overrated, if I do say so myself.
Seems racist. For me personally,
Kyle,
for,
what?
for me personally, like it would be
Kyle,
the
it is Gay History Month. You cannot say that stuff to me.
I would say this is obviously a cop out, but honestly, I think that if you're gonna do anything, I would say go to the Vietnam War Memorial. Just
Yeah,
given the fact that a lot of things get said about our military, but a lot of those guys that were in that war were drafted, and these are like normal dudes like Hall and Reed and I, right? Except for Reed. Reed probably wouldn't have passed because he would have been sent back for being psycho. But like, these are just normal human
yeah.
beings
I would have been a draft dodger for
that
sure,
were
dude.
sent into
I'm
this
fucking
conflict,
dying.
right? So these are
Dying
just
sucks.
Americans that were sent out there, and then when you do go up there and you see the list of names, and it is pretty insane, and they're not all from one specific skin color or not. It was literally a wide variety: Spanish, African American, white, Asian, all over the spectrum of different guys out there, just to see what the monumental weight of it all, and imagine that each one of those guys had families, right, and things to do, and that's obviously something that'll weigh on you. Then the monument is not too far away from that as well. The DC and the museums are absolutely amazing. We got to work on one before I left the Rockville office, and I don't think I can say which one it was, but it's pretty easy to tell by the picture. But it's really good stuff to go down there in DC and see the museums and just walk that part of DC, walk up to the Capitol, and don't break in like Reed and his friends. Don't need to be doing all that stuff
Right,
and
right.
riling up and riding. You know
get
what I mean?
rowdy.
We're gonna get him out of jail, Kyle. We're gonna go into the Capitol and I'm gonna light myself on fire and turn myself into a Halloween decoration. We're gonna get him out.
What about you, Hall?
um, there's a nice place in DC. A lot of stuff, a lot of interesting things around to see. A lot of cultural things to see. It's called Benning Road in Southeast.
Come on, man.
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't make these people go to
Minnesota
Southeast.
Avenue. Go to
Yeah.
Minnesota Avenue. Go to the
Now,
McDonald's.
I would say go to the Air and Space Museum and
Air
walk
Space
around and
Museum's
look up
sick.
at all the shades that our company hung up because bang bang.
Yeah, all
Did
right.
you guys do
You,
that?
GB
all right,
Shades
the
Club.
cat's out of the bag.
Extraordinary
GB
runs
Shades Club.
all the
Boom.
stuff for Air and Space Museum. Anytime they have meetings or anytime they have big events with microphone, they need sound systems. Extraordinary runs all that.
Yeah, dude.
So
That was one of the hottest job sites. Oh my
it's so
goodness.
hot,
Yeah,
so hot.
really was.
Kind of, it's like you in there, just so
Weird.
hot.
Now the last question we have. This is a really quick one, boys. This one is from Yam Sensei. How do I keep my sanity as a DC homer, Hall?
Well, it's a great question. You've kept it this long, or have you? No.
Debatable. Yeah,
Very
just
good.
kidding.
Very good.
Look,
Just kidding.
thank you, thank you. If you just really look at Washington sports as a whole, like Wizards, I can see like I make fun of like the beaten down like fans of like the Redskins, Commanders, whatever you want to call them. But in
Call them
honesty,
by
if
their
we're
name.
if we're sharing if it's sharing Sundays right now, I'm a beaten down Wizards fan. Like I haven't paid attention or cared about the Wizards since they've traded Job and Walker. They've just been so bad. I've just been like,
Yep.
whatever. I don't even care what they do. But
Trevor Ariza,
it's
man. As soon as they sent away
yeah,
Trevor Ariza.
exactly. But if you exclude them and you just look at like the Capitals, I mean, you still got Ovi. That's something to get excited for, and they're always going to be competitive, at least to make the playoffs at minimum. And if you look at the Commanders
Nats.
and the
Nationals.
Nats, those are both teams that kind of went through they're going through the rebuilding stage, and they're both kind of looks like they've maybe getting to the end of the end of the tunnel where they got the Nats have a lot of prospects on the come up that are going to add to the team and hopefully contribute to the next playoff runs and maybe a championship. And if you look at the Commanders, they've got the front office set up where they got all the hottest and up and coming names and guys that have been really good throughout the league for the last couple of years and many, many years in the front office. Very, very smart guys that have been heralded throughout the league by people that do this and know the league. So I think that and then Mike Rizzo with the Nats has always been a great GM. So I think that you just got to have faith that just like everything in life, everything comes full circle. DC had its run back in the day for a little bit where they were winning championships with the Redskins in the 80s and the 91 team. And the Nats had their 11 years where they were in the playoffs killing it. And the Capitals or Rock the Red era where they're just killing it, going to the playoffs every
Rays
year.
are even in the playoffs regularly, semi-recently.
Exactly. So I think that it's starting to come back around soon. And hopefully, Yam will be here to experience it. And we'll be hanging out, partying together at a parade in DC sometime the next couple years.
Kyle's going to be in a parade in DC this month.
How do you know about it? I didn't even know there was a parade, Reed.
Because it's Gay History Month.
I flew right over me. I will say this. Read the Bible.
There's parades every day.
Read the Bible, dude. Read the Bible. You could really see what people had gone through.
I'm a Scientologist.
And see that, and see what really what people being torturers of. It really puts it in the perspective of life and everything in general. So as much as you think you are going crazy, there's really a lot worse that could be going for you, right? So I would say that, and also in the wise words of Doc Walker, weed is legal now, so that's also something.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to Doc. That was a great line.
Also, I mean, honestly, bro to bro, just stay off Twitter.
True, that's great advice.
All you got to do. Yeah.
That's actually the best advice I've ever heard from Reed. So good job.
All right, boys.
Thank you,
boys. This is our first show on Sunday evening. This was a great one. Thank you to Michael Phillips for coming on and joining us. Thank you to the Colonel, Tony Shivers, Tim Towner, Yam, Arch. Thank you to everyone who's Jeff Miles submitting in questions. If you made it this far, you're a frickin' champion for staying with us and through Reed's poor jokes as always. I know it probably stabbed a little bit there, but just. Thank you for hanging in with us, man. We really do appreciate it.
What Kyle? I'm edgy and dark. So edgy, so dark.
You make me laugh, and that's all that counts.
That is
all I do. Literally.
That's all that matters.
As long as I get a giggle out of Hall, I'm good. I don't care.
True. He has an infectious laugh. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. We'll see you guys again next Sunday. Have a great week. I'm on vacation. We'll be wrapping up here, packing up here soon. I'll be smoking my cigar, I think, tomorrow night. I was hoping it would be done tonight, but it's been so chaotic with traffic on the Bay Bridge, driving back and forth. It was
and you got the Dennis Rodman booty hole cigar?
No, I'm getting an actual cigar. I'm not smoking that, dude. I told you. I'm not ever gonna smoke that thing. I'm not putting my lips.
He smells it.
Yeah. I didn't even smell it. That thing's staying in the cigar box. It's staying where it is. It's Michael Jordan's cigar that he smoked. Okay, guys. I'm not touching that thing.
It's been in also Dennis Rodman's booty hole for
no. It's a terrible joke. Terrible joke.
If you open it, does it let all the stank out? Is that why you don't open it?
But
you want that stank.
I'm gonna go buy a cigar. I'm gonna sit by the fire pit. I'm gonna smoke my cigar and enjoy my vacation as much as I possibly freaking can.
Dated that wet fish Madonna.
What? All right, everybody. On that note, let's get out of here. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
Daniel Kelly or something.
Can you tell us what your shirt before we leave? What's your shirt?
Have you ever seen Love on the Spectrum? Love on the Spectrum season 2, the American season. This is my boy James. Yeah, he's got the same name as my son. No, I didn't name him after him, but he's the king. He's a king. He's the man. He's a real life Napoleon Dynamite. He always goes, damn it. Oh, well, I didn't want to use that one anyway. And his dad kind of bullies him. One time, it's funny. It was real fast. One time, he wears a cape sometimes. And his dad was like, James, do the thing with the cape. Do the thing. He goes, Dad, I'm not doing it. And he goes, do the thing. Come on, James. He goes, fine. I am Dracula, but I don't drink blood. I drink wine. And I was like, sick. It was pretty cool.
Dude, Reed, man, I love him. Yeah, I know you do, and it's really awesome you give him the shout out on here because
Dude, he's got the best Instagram of all time. He's a king.
All right, everybody, that's gonna wrap us up. We'll see you guys next Sunday. Have a great, safe week. Enjoy your week if you're on vacation.
Such a random shirt.
Chill out.
My boss got it for me for my birthday. He ordered it.
And he said,
"Oh my god."
I'm not gonna say it. All right, everybody.
Let us say it. Don't be.
He said he
scared.
reminded you of him. All right, everybody.
I
We'll
will,
see you
man.
guys
Yeah,
next
yeah,
Sunday.
yeah,
All right. We'll see you. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.